In this video, we're going to take a look at Romankey's gun girl, Jessica Aster, or whatever the heck this says. The Awoken gun girl, definitely not Rebecca from Cyberpunk. This figure is pretty pricey, so you're probably wondering whether she's worth it. Now, while she is a great figure, she might not be for everyone. Personally, I was very on the fence about this one, but I've never had a Romankey figure before, so why not? This is the second batch release. The first batch apparently had some pretty bad QC. So let's see if this one's better. Of course, this is the deluxe edition because we like wasting money around here. There are some warnings which I guess you should take note of. I also have this official Romankey store bonus, I believe. I think it's a stand, and we'll take a look at it later if I remember. Inside the box, there are 2 layers of trays and some instructions. I quite like how the instructions are presented with the hand-drawn aesthetic. Very cute. Honestly, not quite sure what's going on, but we'll figure it out. With the main tray, you get the main figure of course, and a bunch of other stuff. With the secondary tray, which I believe is mostly just included with the deluxe edition, you have enough parts for another full figure, and just a bunch of other stuff. So technically, if you get the deluxe edition, you are getting 2 whole figures, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure these bits up here with the jacket are what you get with the second batch. Just some extra joints and stuff, just to ensure that even with the fixed up batch, if you have any issues, you got some replacements. Much appreciated. There's some spare bikini parts, and if you're lucky, you might see what's underneath later on. Getting her out of the tray, she has some plastic protecty bits. After removing the plastic, this is what she looks like out of the box. I will say objectively she looks quite nice, pretty detailed. Here is a look at the front, of course. Everything looking pretty good. And a look at the back. Very nice. The hair is sculpted quite nicely with some separate strands and stuff. However, there doesn't seem to be any shading. By default, she has a blank expression and the face looks very nice, very detailed. The level of detail at such a small scale is quite impressive. Her main body has some tattoos and stuff around her chest and abdomen and right leg. There are some seam lines which I'm not quite sure is normal, but it's not too bad given her overall cyberpunk aesthetic. They're also kind of at the back and slightly on her arms. By default, she has a mech neck and mech arms, which look pretty good and have quite a good finishing. If you put all the other parts together for the other body, she comes attached with the mecha neck. However, I switched it out for the human neck. It was a little bit of a hassle getting the ball joints out of the body and the head. I say a little bit of a hassle, but it was a big hassle for me. However, after a lot of heat and persistence, it eventually came out. I did end up sanding it down on both sides, just in case I wanted to switch it out later on. On her alt body, to swap her face, you just pull off the front hair and then you can switch it. For the main body, I'm not actually sure if the front hair comes off, but you can just wiggle the faces out anyway. Even at such a small scale, they do have movable eyes, which is pretty cool. You just use this stick thing and wiggle it around. It does feel a little bit loose, however I don't think it's too bad. Also, besides the apparent seam lines, there is also some like unclean nubs around, for example on the neck here. However, it's not too bad. There is also a jacket, which is pretty well done. There is a thin wire running around the front, so you can articulate it as well. Speaking of articulation, her normal head turns all the way around, but be careful of the mecha neck. Might be a little bit tight. She can of course tilt and nod. There is separate movement for the head and the neck. The ponytails are on a ball joint and they can rotate fully and move up and down and in any direction as needed. The arms can move up and down very well. They can also be a little bit stiff, so be careful. They can rotate all the way around. And she also has a butterfly joint at the shoulder for some extra movement. Overall arm range is pretty good, as to be expected with a Romankey figure. Depending on the articulation, there will be some exposed joints, but I don't think it's too bad. She has a bicep swivel and double jointed elbows. The mecha arm you kind of just shove onto her arm. The inside is a flesh tone, which is good to avoid paint rubbing. However, just to be extra cautious, I would suggest if you want to move the mech arm, you take it off and then you plug it back in at the desired position. The finishing on the mech arm looks nice, looks pretty good. The hand part can be wobbled and moved around. And you can also attach other stuff to it, which we'll see later. The fingers are on little hinges, so they do move. Be very careful here because some of them are a little bit stiff and you wouldn't want to go breaking them. The thumbs are a little bit weird as well. They can be a little bit loose at certain angles, so watch out for that as well. The hinge, however, can be a little bit tight. The torso is cut up into a few sections, which do move individually. You can of course just turn them, tilt them, and move them around. The combined motion of all these parts is excellent, but just be careful not to force it too much. So while the range is pretty good as it's so cut up, it might not necessarily look the best. However, due to the design and nature of the character, I don't think it's too bad here. Her legs raised to the sides naturally like so. The booty pretty much stays intact, which is good. She can kick forwards and backwards, but be careful of the soft booty piece, as well as any clothing she has on. The legs feel good and easily move in any direction. She has a thigh rotation and double jointed knees. Unfortunately, on my copy, the feet on the main body are a little bit loose. A little bit unfortunate as everything else is very, very solid. Once again, articulation is pretty good. Exactly what I would expect from Romankey. With the other hairstyle, head range is limited a little bit, but otherwise on the blank body everything is pretty similar. How everything feels is pretty consistent between the two bodies. Just a few joints are a little bit too tight for my liking, however I guess it does help to hold poses. And the feet on the blank body are fine as well. For accessories, we've got a whole bunch of stuff. We've got a stand, of course. The stand that she comes with does look better than the bonus stand from Romankey, but it's okay, probably wouldn't use them anyway. Just another look at her faces. She does have 3 total, which you can swap around the different hairstyles. She's got her default blank stare. She's got a kind of snickering, disgusted look. And then she has her crazy face. Very nice. For hands, she has a total of 7 pairs, not including the gauntlets. The blank body has a default pair of whatever you call these hands. With the main body, you get a pair of gun-holding hands. There are also a pair of open gesture hands. There's a pair of very open, flat-palmed hands. Kinda small, pinchy hands, I guess. Actual relaxed hands. And fisty hands. She also has her gauntlet, of course. Extra good for fisty things. She has a little belt harness thing. I guess it's just a belt. This is actually functional, as you can put the pistol in the holster. As well as that, her other weapons and things you can latch onto the sides, which is pretty cool. So playability so far is pretty damn good. These are all her weapons and combinations and things. We call this one the Sweet Child, or just using her gauntlets. This spray can looking thing is the November Rain. Patience is what we call this one. Dual wield. Double holder. And of course, here is the extra mega weapon. Do suggest using these with the gauntlets, of course. There are little bits on the gun which you can plug into the gauntlets to make sure she holds it properly, as you probably wouldn't want to rely on the fingers doing all the work. The gun itself looks pretty cool, pretty detailed. Don't really know what's going on, but hey, big gun is pretty cool. This part actually does move as well, but be careful with it. So just holding it with her gauntlets is mode 1. For mode 2, you can actually pull the gun apart and attach them straight onto her arms. This is called the Estranged Machine Gun. For height, the main body is about 6¼ inch with the shoes and the bits of hair at the top, or around or just over 16 centimeters. The blank body without shoes and ponytail is just about 6 inches, or I guess around 15 centimeters. Objectively, Romankey's Gun Girl is a pretty solid figure if you like the aesthetic and posability and don't mind a more realistic look. I do prefer my more anime looking girlies, but I can't deny this is a pretty cool figure. Whether you just get the standard version or the deluxe edition with the extra body and big gun, I would say it's pretty worth it. Definitely gonna look out for more Romankey stuff in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.